Well, welcome to this Bond Salon video. I'm delighted to have Mr. Haydn Kelly here today. Haydn, would you like to just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you, Mark. I'm the current Dean of Podiatric Surgery in the UK, having trained as a podiatrist initially. But what brought me into the expert witness world was primarily a small amount of medical legal work that then became a game changer with the introduction in 2000 of the creation of identifying people by the way they walk.
I see. Now, presumably you're still doing your day job. How has your expert witness work impacted the day job?
The single biggest factor, there is more than one of course, but the single biggest factor has been the broader perspective it gives you on matters, particularly when you view things such as personal injury, clinical negligence or other matters of a more, shall we say, forensic nature, that it gives you the ability to look at both sides of the scales or both sides of the coin in a much broader way than you perhaps would have done previously.
Almost by definition, when an expert's involved, there's been a problem. So you must have seen things where professionals have perhaps gone astray or done something wrong. Has that impacted the way you do your work?
Yes, I think it is. Often it's if something happens on for example, on the medical side of things, it's invariably a chain reaction where something has occurred which, if it had been acknowledged much earlier, would have or could have prevented a much more disastrous situation occurring. But then, of course, you can get a whole series of things that occur, and that requires a different level of explanation. And I think what the performing expert witness work does, whether it be in report writing or cross-examination or the aspects that are needed for an expert to give evidence in court, those things are different to what you do on a daily basis, but they are an extension of those things. And of the people I've spoken with, many colleagues in different arenas, and I share the view on this, that those that perform expert witness work certainly do learn an awful lot more, and it makes them, for want of a better expression, a better practitioner.
Well, isn't the danger to be defensive?
Well, it is in some ways, particularly when sort of quite hard cross-examination. And the beauty of that, if one can remain outside of it whilst addressing the questions, is that you're there to help the court with the matters before it in your area of expertise. When things go wrong from an expert witness point of view, it can often be in the courtroom anyway, where an expert is led intentionally or unintentionally and strays outside of their area of expertise. For example, with myself, if I was asked something about forensic gait analysis, the ability to identify people by the way they walk, if I was to be drawn into the details of image analysis and the physics all behind the images, then that would
be outside your field.
Absolutely.
Now, of course, one of the reasons for writing a legal report is to help a judge or a jury understand difficult issues. Has that impacted the way you deal with patients?
Yes, it does to some extent, but I've always taken the approach personally where if you make the patients aware of all the options or reasonable options that are pertinent to their situation, the options available in treatment, and then you help to steer them down a road where they then need to make a choice, if a choice exists. Sometimes there isn't a choice in terms of what the treatment for something might be. There might only be one way of doing something that's relevant. Often that's not the case, and there is invariably more than one route to solving a problem.
So it becomes an informed choice?
Absolutely.
So dealing with cross-examination, that can be quite a challenging experience for experts. Has that affected the way that you do your general work?
Yes, I mean, more often than not, and it will vary from one area of expertise to another, that an expert may be in court for anything from half a day to perhaps a couple of days. The other end of that spectrum can be sometimes much, much longer than that, depending upon the matter, and particularly if you're dealing with criminal cases where the stakes are very high and the trials might be going on for many, many months. And the scrutiny that's afforded reports is right and proper. And what I would say on that for people is that when you're preparing your report, ensure that you do a good one, because if you do go to court and have to be examined on it, then any failings in there will be shown up very, very quickly and that will require an explanation. And nobody wants to be in a situation where they're squeezed or made to look or feel uncomfortable. So giving the time and doing a good report, taking your time when you're answering those questions that can be quite or feel quite personal at times. One just has to extract oneself from that situation and stick to the matter in hand. By way of example, one amusing example, on one occasion in a trial, a murder trial, I was asked to a particular question to which I needed to refer to the report, and the report in that particular case was over 50 pages of typed A4. And at the point where I found the piece of material I needed to refer to, I'd actually had forgotten specifically what the question was and needed to ask counsel again if they could repeat it. Unfortunately, counsel had forgotten the question themselves and informed me that they would come back to it, but never did.
Right. Now, finally, of course, it is quite a dangerous occupation being an expert now, isn't it? Since Jones and Kane, you're liable in contract and negligence for your opinion, and we saw Meadow, etc. Clearly, it's important that you know what you're doing, isn't it?
Well, it is. I think there's been many opinions have floated around on that. The facts remain as they are, and experts need to have indemnity insurance. It would seem that everybody else involved in the legal system, occupation-wise, has to have indemnity insurance, counsel and lawyers and others. So it follows there's no real reason why, in my view, why experts shouldn't have indemnity insurance either. And the costs are not currently particularly astronomical. And I think it also gives individuals, the expert witnesses, that is, a bit more confidence that if something does go wrong, whether it's of their own making or the making of others, or both, then at least they've got some security in being able to have those matters properly addressed.
And of course, training.
Yes, absolutely.
So just to summarise, you would say that your expert witness work has informed your general work?
Most definitely.
And improved it?
Most definitely.
Good. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Not at all. Pleasure to be here.
And thank you so much for watching. Thank you.